This is the list in question, though. Look at that juicy list. What do you guys think? Before we go. Mate, I made a howler. This is a way better list than before. Do you remember the list that I made when the version first came out? Let me show you guys the first list I made. Absolute howler. How's Moving Castle? It was bad. This is the first list. Why is Yuri up there? Oh. Why was Dolores up there? What was I thinking? What was I thinking? And then this was my top 9, which is completely false because there is no top 9. There is just the best 7 characters in the game. What a howler. Rock Point. Jesus. Who would have thunk it? Who would have thunk it? But to be honest with you, apart from Haydn going down and Athena going up, the list is basically the same. Unfortunately, I didn't put Maxima in the list though. I kind of forgot. Those are the best Those are the best characters in the game though. Like the whole of Team Garou, I would never have thought this. The whole of Team Garou is just like too good. It's like the best team in the entire game. If you pick like Team Garou for like, I don't know, some tournament in like, what do they call them? Like charity tournaments where it's like, oh yeah, you pick like a base team and you rock with it and you have to like bid for it. Then like you've picked Team Garou, you're gonna win. You're gonna win. And then this is the list. Yeah, Maxima is definitely above all for sure. I wish I put Maxima there though. I fucked up big time with that. But yeah. I think this list represents the game pretty well. I like Benny Maru. He's like A+. He's like, in my opinion, he's better than the rest of A, but he still struggles with certain characters, with certain things, because it's like he's got good buttons, right? Like there is no dispute with the buttons that he has, but it's not the same. It's not the same as like, oh, like I've got a really far crouch B and I'm gonna cancel it into a safe Tatsu, or like I've got a really far C and I'm gonna cancel it into dual upper. Like it's not exactly the same. He can still do stuff like his go-to button is like what, fast CD. Other than that, he has to jump. I mean, you could say sweep as well, but sweep doesn't really get him anything. Sweep gets him nothing actually. Sweep just gets him a situation. But if he had a better far heavy button, like if his far C hit crouching, then we wouldn't be in this situation. We would be talking about how good Benny is. Well, he's already good, but like the best. We'd be talking about how top tier he is. He's like A+ though, if you ask me. Someone asked me as well, like, why isn't Matenkun's in A? I'm like, nah, Matenkun's not in A. Matenkun's not in A. Yeah, well, exactly, right? Exactly. It's the same thing with Yashiro. The fact that Yashiro can do far C, cancel, and then get a situation post-special is fucked. Same thing with Kura. All these characters in S, right, they have something that is proper fucked, yeah? All these characters in A, for the most part, relatively okay, yeah? Like, they're very good, but they don't really have anything truly fucked, right? I would say, like, the one thing that is truly fucked amongst the A's is, like, Shermie damage output and Benny EX knee punishment. And that's it. Everything else is kind of fair. You could also say, like, Iori EX command grab is kind of fucked, but I don't think it's the same. Like, he doesn't nearly get as much for it as Rock does. So, that's, like, my theory behind it anyway. He's just missing that little bit to make him fucked. But he is really close to being fucked. Who else can we talk about? Haydn being C. I know Haydn being C is a bit of like a, why is Haydn in C? He's got X, Y, and Z. The thing with Haydn being in C is that for the effort that he has, he doesn't do enough damage. And I don't think he's supposed to do that damage, but he hasn't got fucked buttons either. His buttons are actually quite tame in my opinion. Robert and Clark should be one higher because they can the ability to crouch B and EX. Yeah, I get that. And this is the same thing with Benny to a certain degree, except like he can only get knee. But the knee does great stun, right? So that's the trade off. He doesn't do great damage, but he does great stun off crouch B. But the problem with Robert and Clark, well, Clark his crouch B is not very far anyway. He has to get mad close. In fact, I would argue that Shermie has a better crouch B than Clark, right? And she might even have a better confirm with crouch B with bar than Clark. It's just that Clark gets a bit more in terms of his meterless confirm, right? And the situations that he gets, and the fact that he can build bar and convert. Yeah. I get that. I agree. She has to do like EX Tatsu in it, and even then, sometimes it doesn't work. Yeah, it gets better, but I think can't she do confirm into EX Tatsu? I'm pretty sure she can confirm into EX Tatsu, and it's similar. Yeah, true. But the crouch A can whiff as well, though, in my opinion, with Clark. But I mean, that's not even really the problem, right? The problem is, especially for Clark, right? But kind of the same with Robert, is that they struggle with, once again, the buttons from the top tiers. I mean, you saw it in the matches with Max, right? Crouch A. I'm pretty sure I've seen Crouch A whiff sometimes. But I know that if you hit Crouch A, then EX Gatling always works. Anyway, the point I want to make quickly anyway is that you saw it a little bit in that set that I just had with Max, right? Where even though Robert has this far crouch B that can convert into tons of damage, against these top tier characters, it's not enough because they can force you to whiff so easy. For me, I'm not putting a lot of thought into Max whiffing. I'm just creating the space there with Yashiro, with Mac Punch, right? Dual upper, whatever you want to call it. Max then has to guess between what button he has to press. And if he presses far B, which is his safest option to be quite honest, right, as Robert in that situation, he's going to get nothing for it anyway. So I'm not in a situation where I'm like, right, I need to be scared of Robert pressing far B. It's the opposite. In fact, I'm like, right, I'm not scared of what it's going to do. Max has to go out of his way to punish me here. So let's see if he can do it. Let's see if he can get the punish. If he gets punished, then fair enough. He gets 18, 20%. If I hit him, I'm going to be taking 20 to 30% off. The risk reward is just super in my favor at all times. So, but this isn't about them being an S. This is about them being an A. I would say the reason why Shermie is better than Clark is simply because of her buttons. That's it. That is literally it. That's what separates her from Clark. I think her buttons are insane. And I think her damage is insane. And that's what brings it over Clark, in my opinion. Her confirms, look, fair enough. Her confirms are the worst part, which is why she's an A and not S. If her confirms were insane, if she could do Tapestry, yeah, exactly. Far B Tattoo is so much scarier. If she could get 100% consistency with Crouch B, Far B into EX Tatsu, there's no there's no whiffs. It always works. There's no problem whatsoever. She'd be an S2. 100%, because we've seen what she does in this game. We've seen the amount of damage she has on the table. She is almost as scary as Cronin in terms of an anchor. And that's a pretty fair feat, if I do say so myself. Clark is borderline A because of the fact that he can loop pressure a lot, and it really comes down to a guess. But the problem with that guess is that he has to guess at least 7 to 8 times to win the game, whereas these characters that are in A and above, depending on the bar that you're starting with, you're only guessing twice a game. Yeah, exactly. You got to be quite close. But like, there are sweet spots where like she can do crouch B to far B, and obviously like throw will whiff, and that's where she gets scary, in my opinion. But um, but yeah, and then like I said with Robert, Robert is just missing that. Robert is just missing that one little thing to make him so that he can deal with these characters in S. Because to a certain degree, all these characters in A can handle the characters in S, right? I would say so. I would say so. Um, Especially in Benny's case, yeah. But I don't think Robert can consistently handle Yashiro or Kula for that matter either. And he is more of a point character. When he has bar, all he's really getting for that bar is the fact that he's going to have his confirm ready. But the confirm isn't doing enough damage. You have to slowly kill the character. At least with Kula, the damage is more, and she has that anti-fireball zoning game. Yeah. Um, but I hear your point, though. I hear your point, and I definitely agree with it on some fronts. Especially for Clark. I think Robert is exactly fine where he is. I used to think Robert was A, but over time, seeing him whiff against the best characters while they're trying to set up scary offense, breaking your guard slowly but surely, and just racking up damage, it's so hard for him to keep up the pace. His way of keeping up the pace is to just punish you with Fireball Dragon and stand CD, and that's it. And then forcing you to be scared so that he can run up and take and still turns with Crouch B. And that's it. That's the game plan, and it works. It definitely works because that's why he's in B. All the characters in B, they've got a game plan and it works. But as for it taking the piss, taking liberties, taking lives, it's not enough to take the lives of characters in A and S, in my opinion. But you can definitely compete. My tier list here anyway is just to show like if you're in B, you can fight S because it's only 2 up. Obviously, you got to put in a lot of effort, but you can do it. If you're Shanae fighting Yashiro, I don't know how the fuck you're winning that. In a million years, I have no idea how you're winning that. And that's a shame, really, because it shouldn't be that way. It shouldn't be that way. Like, yeah, like, you know, if you're in B, you're going to show all. And all the characters in C and D should be in B. That's how you make a balanced game, but I don't really know how, you know, you're going to make these characters that much better. It's more of a case of making the current S tiers worse. And I think that's for the best. I thought just buff everyone to that level, but I don't think it's as simple as that. I don't think you can do that because then things are going to be overlooked and there's going to be a new group of top tiers. It's going to be SNK have a tough task on their hands for sure. They have a really tough task because you know as well, right, that if all they do is touch S and bring S down to, you know, A at stretch, right, they're probably going to be in B or C. But if they would bring them down to A, what's to stop them from changing the characters in A or B to go back to S? This is the problem that we have in KOF games, right? It's going to be very, very hard for them to get this right. I think it's going to be very, very hard for them to get this right. And I don't know what the solution is. I wish I could tell you. It's not as simple as making Cronin's EXDP not give you a combo anymore. Or giving Kula her buttons. Or Yashiro his buttons and damage. It's not as simple as that. But, you know, I think I would like it if everyone else in B can go to A, but most likely what's going to happen is all these characters in S are going to go down to B or C, and then everyone in B hopefully either remains the same or gets slightly better, and then the characters in A need a slight tone down, just a slight one, just so that once everyone else is nerfed and everyone else is buffed a little bit, so that you can have that balance. That's it. That's the only thing I can think of. But that's so hard to do. Yeah, they probably are going to buff Cronin, right? They're probably going to do something silly. Well, this is the thing as well, right? This is the whole thing about buffs and nerfs. We're sitting here talking about it right now, but we haven't even got a confirm yet about them getting buffed or nerfed. We could literally be turning on the consoles Tuesday, Wednesday night, depending on where you are in the world. And we might not see anything. We might see fuck all. There might be no changes. And then we have to deal with this for another 3 to 4 months. Now, me personally, I'm going to keep playing no matter what. But a lot of people, I mean, you heard what Max said. He's like, nah, I don't want to play this. I can't be asked to do this for another 3 to 4 months. Having to wake up and block against Cronin because I'm scared of the 50-50 for 70%. 4-frame EXDP. Mental, mate. Absolutely mental. But at the same time, this is another thing I was thinking about recently. What if they balance the game and then the characters that they've just put in are fucked? Then what? Then you have to do an emergency patch, and that is a lot of effort for them. So what part makes sense? What I said, or the thing I said afterwards? Not wanting to play. Yeah. I get it. I get it. People are fed up. People are fed up. I think if this Samurai Shodown team comes out and nothing changes, I think tournaments are going to take a massive hit. I think they're going to take a massive, massive hit. Which is a shame, because it shouldn't be that way. But this is the situation that we're dealing with. Team games are a brutal game, because chances are you're just going to pick the best characters, right? And if there isn't a myriad of characters that are the best characters, then you're going to see the same characters again and again. And then this is where the problem comes in. This is why we have Cronin on every single team. This is why we have Cooler on most teams, or Janet on most teams. Like, pick one of the S tiers, and you're going to see them all the time. Even if it's Rock or Gato, which are the weakest of the S tiers, but they're still super strong. They're still retarded. Absolutely insane characters, to be honest with you. Especially in comparison to A or B. But yeah, like, don't get me wrong though, I am massively looking forward to playing Holmoru and Nakaruru. Dali I'm not really interested in, but I'm definitely interested in Holmoru and Nakaruru. I don't know about you guys, but Holmoru looks sick. Like, the confirm into the box. I'm a big fan of that. Big fan of that. But yeah, the C characters. I'm just trying to think of like relevant changes, right? I think for Shanae, he definitely just needs changes to his DPs, and he's pretty much there, really. Like, CDP not being full involves a liberty, because as a Yashiro player, I'm just going to do crouch A, crouch C. That's my go-to against Shanae, because if he wakes up with if he wakes up with EXDP, he'll get beaten by the crouch A. And then if he wakes up with CDP, the crouch A will whiff, but then the crouch C will hit, so he gets fucked anyway, to be honest with you. So I think if you change DPs for that to work, then that would be good. And then also, his light DP needs to be a proper anti-air. It needs to be like a Rochi Chris or like Cronin light DP, where like if they're in the skies, you're going to get touched and you miss your turn, and then that's it. I think that would be fair. I don't think that'd be an unfair change, to be honest with you. I think Haydn just needs scarier buttons on the ground. I think his specials are fine. It's just that his buttons on the ground are a bit finicky. Sweep is just it takes so long for sweep to work, but like, sweep is a good button still. It's probably one of his best buttons, and that's kind of a testament to how rough the buttons are. They're like this weird duality of like, yeah, it's got like great utility, but like you have to use it well, otherwise excuse me, otherwise it's just not going to work. And so yeah, I think his buttons just need to get better. Yeah, well, this is the thing. He just works off jump CD, jump C, and sweep, which is fine. If it wasn't for the characters in S, that would be a fine way to play the game. But as soon as Haydn has to fight against a Kura or a Yashiro or any of these characters, he is massively fucked. And then also the same thing applies to any of the characters in A. If Haydn has to play against Benny, he's in a tough spot, in my opinion. He's in a very tough spot. Same with Yuri. If he has to fight against Yuri, that's a tough matchup too. EX Command Grab if he sets it up well, will just beat out the flash kick, even EX flash kick. He then has to guess on, like, okay, I've got to do light springer, but, you know. Yeah, he does. That's true. He has the mix-ups. He has the reversals. This is why he's, like, on the cusp of being B. I was like, should Haydn go in B? And then I thought about the buttons, and I was like, no, it's just not enough. Like, the reversals and the mix-ups, they're not enough, especially coupled with damage as well. His damage for what he gets is a bit lacking. It's just a little bit lacking. So I don't know, choose, innit? Like buttons or damage. He needs to have a little bit more juice in the tank in one of those departments. Then he can start cooking, cooking with gas. Maxima's also in C, but I don't really know how you're supposed to change that character. You can either make his gimmick better, but the gimmick being better will just make people upset, because I would get upset when I get robbed with armor kicking in, right? Or alternatively, you make his buttons faster, but then it's a case of, well, how fast you make them, and then you can make him fuck that way. So I don't really know how to make Maxima better. Confirms? Yeah, confirms. Yeah. Confirms would be better. Grab supers also, yeah. Him missing grab into super was a massive deal, and I think he should have that cancelled back. But I also think Orochi, sorry, not Orochi Chris, I also think normal Chris should have grab into super, because his command grab leads to fuck all. His grab leads to fuck all, and his buttons, it's a similar situation to O-Chris, but he gets so much more. O-Chris gets so much more for the situations that he does hit the opponent, whereas Chris doesn't really get what he needs. But yeah, Maxima does need more as well. He needs more confirms. But yeah, I think if he had more confirms, then he'd be in B. If I'm being honest with you, more confirms and a good check button from far, like maybe a little bit faster start up on I don't know, maybe far C or far D, something like that. Yeah, well, this is the thing. He is really fast. Chris, I think because Chris is fast, he's hard to balance, right? But yeah, for Maxima needs like a better crouch, a better far C or a better far D. But other than that, he also needs his confirms, and then he'd be fine. But Maxima is like on the cusp of being B as well. All these characters in C, for the most part, are relatively on the cusp of being B. It's just they're missing that little something. D, on the other hand, mate, Jesus, like these characters need a whole new, like they need a new fresh pair of eyes to actually balance these guys, because whoever's been doing it before, they are obviously not seeing what's going on. Yeah, I imagine Harry was upset about Maxima. I mean, everyone gets upset about Maxima. He's the king of robbing people. He is the king of robbers. Vanessa, I'm not sure how you can make Vanessa better. Vanessa's like also on the cusp of being B, but yeah, I think for me it's a case of like her combos being hard. That's fine, right? But her buttons, I feel like her buttons are a bit lacking. She has to be so up close to you at all times, and in this meta, you can't do that. You can't do that because characters like Yashiro, Kuro, and Gato, and Cronin, etc., are just going to press far C or crouch B from far and then just take your life away. Vanessa just can't do that. She doesn't suit the current meta. If like the characters in A were S and the characters in S were in A or B, then she'd be in B, because then she can get into range and force stuff to happen. But as it stands right now, I don't think she can. I think her combos are hard. The new route with like she has to do like screw knuckle into DP from Sway. I think it's harder. It's definitely harder than what it was. Oh right, yeah. Max range crouch A. I told Harry to do crouch A into EX command grab, but he's like, no, I don't want to do that because you don't get anything. Yeah, maybe. I'll be honest though, I do think King of Dinosaurs needs Crouch A EX record to work at all ranges. But that's just me. That's like one of the only things that he needs changing. That consistency issue, it just sucks. But I was really surprised that he didn't make more of an impact this matter because of the characters he has to fight against. But, you know, thinking about it, when he has to fight against Crouch B from Kura and Far C and Far A from Yashiro and Stan CD from Chizuru and etc., he really struggles pressing buttons against those guys. Like he has to push all the time. There has to be no gaps. He has to force the frame traps really, really hard. You know, he just is outmatched in buttons against those characters. He really is outmatched. It's a shame too because the character's cool. And I think they balanced him well in terms of like he has to hit you like he's like Clark. He has to hit you like 6 to 8 times to kill you. Like it's all guesses, right? But you know, like the set play, innit? I think he's balanced well for his set play, but he can't compete with the buttons that are available, and you know, it's tough for him. It's really, really tough for him. I would say that Cod is probably one of the worst characters in C. Antonov is solid. I would say he's like a solid C. I wouldn't say he's the best in C, but I think I don't even know how you would change Antonov. Antonov's a really hard one to change because if you make him too strong, then all of a sudden he's just going to be Cronin. He's just going to be Cronin. I think he gets mauled a lot, and I think to compensate, he would need to have a better meterless DP. But at the same time, if he has a better meterless DP, I don't want him to combo off it in the corner. Fuck that. That's not fair. In fact, like I think the Light Dragon should be a soft knockdown if he's going to have it as a reversal. But he just gets mauled, and that's the problem. Like these characters are too good at mauling. You have to once again control the space at all times. But like, how are you supposed to like? He's an anchor character, right? That's why they call him Antonov. He is the anchor character. How the fuck are you supposed to anchor against Cronin? In what universe are you anchoring against Cronin? You're just gonna have to do like EX bearing wave like 100 times and just hope that he's just constantly pressing buttons and fucking up DP. Because otherwise, how are you supposed to get close to him when Crouch C exists? I don't get it. Me and Harry sat down one day and we were like, yeah, like Antonov probably has like genuine 7-3 matchups, in my opinion. Yeah, exactly. ADP should have upper body info. CDP, like, maybe against buttons, but definitely not fireballs. I think his super should go through fireballs. But I think his, like, Court Circle Back AC already goes through it, so. Yeah, exactly. EX shouldn't be a reversal. That's the problem that I have with the character. Why is it a reversal? It shouldn't be a reversal. All these DPs that give you combos on reversal, it's a shit situation. Like, let's be honest. Let's be completely honest with ourselves. If they made EXDP 4 frames and it hit crouchers, yeah, and then they nerf Cronin, are we all thinking that Antonov wouldn't go to S? He would go to the top immediately because the same situation would apply, except now it's this huge bearing dude. Like, it's not some skinny waste man. It's like this hench Randy Savage lookalike. So he's hard to balance. But I think that they can balance him. Like I said, like for not putting Maxima, I know, mate, that was a massive blunder on my part. But like I said, Maxima's in C for sure. Maxima's alright. I think he's probably one of the better characters in C. Some people can make him really like work well, but I think with how fast and strong these characters are in S and A, it's a very volatile meta for him. He either works really well and will like kill a character very quickly, or he will die a slow and painful death. When Bolshin sees this, he was like, "What the fuck? Do you hate Maxima?" I mean, I kind of do hate Maxima, but I wish Billy was top tier because I'd play him. Billy just needs buttons changing. He needs specials working. Like, he needs a proper revamp. He needs a proper revamp because they clearly did not know what to do with this character when they were putting him in the game. They were like, yeah, like, we know about all these complaints from KOF 14. You know, we're going to address them by completely removing his entire toolset while keeping his specials there, but they don't do anything. Yeah, I think his hurt boxes are silly too. I think Ramon's a tough one. I would probably want more invincibility frames on the C grab, and I would like the light grab to be one frame. That's just me personally. Like, I like having Ramon to have that run up grab, like to have that as an option, right? So that's what I would like. I would like God, what would I really like? I would like a consistent confirms meterless from taps, but I don't think you can give him that. Which is a shame. It's a shame. Um, I think his jump buttons are fine. I think his heavy buttons are fine. Um, yeah, like if all these things were changed, he would probably be in C, which is fine. You know, a character like Ramon, you don't want him to be too strong, but you want him to be usable. And at the moment, because his command grabs aren't really a factor, they are not usable in the slightest. I do think EX run grab should be projectile invincible as well, so he has something against the fireball characters. Because you better believe that once all these S characters get torn apart, these B characters that have sick fireball games are gonna get used a lot. So Ramon would need to check that post haste. You know what I mean? Um, what else? I would probably. I mean, for a long time, I thought about fast jab being cancelable, but I don't know if you can because then you would have far jab drop kick cancels, and that's not fun. That's not fun for anyone. So yeah, I think just changing how grabs work, change how grabs work, and then we're in business. EX grab, I think is fine. I think I remember. Um, Corsical back BD. Corsical back BD. You can, but like that's a really hard move to use in a situation where you're mid screen because he has to run all the way to the other side of the screen and then jump off the wall. And then the way that he jumps off the wall isn't exactly quick. It takes a while for him to land. So I don't think that's a viable enough option. But I think if he's near the wall, you're better off having that as the option. Because if you did EX run grab from far, then chances are the opponent would have already recovered. I think he should have both tools. He should have a tool for when he's full screen and a tool for when he's up close. So that he can check fireballs from all ranges. But obviously, you need the experience to be like, right, okay, he's done fireball full screen, run back to the wall, jump off. Yeah, exactly. And the thing is, right, like having that full screen fireball counter is important. Like he shouldn't lose it, but at the same time, he also needs that counter for up close because although his heavy buttons are kind of okay, I don't know if he can really contest with other characters with those buttons. I was even thinking of Far C being cancelable. That would have been an okay buff, but I don't know if that's too much. It might be too much. Um, I think he should personally, just because he hasn't really got a lot as it is. But you know, he just needs more. Just give him a bit more. I think if you changed how his grabs work, he'd be fine. But like, it needs to be like a particular cancel, like similar to Yoshiro Farsi, where like if Ramon does Farsi, he can't do dropkick. Same thing with Far A. If he does Far A, he can't just do dropkick. But you know, you have to code that in, and SNK aren't that competent. Let's just be honest. Billy definitely needs his buttons to work properly. I feel like some of his specials don't work very well either, but At the same time, it's hard to balance those without him being too strong with keep away. So yeah, Angel, Angel. I think maybe just a faster head, like faster buttons on the ground, because like faster far buttons on the ground, just to contest, not cancelable buttons, just to contest on the ground. Because at the moment, she can't really contest on the ground. She has to just keep jumping and praying that it's going to work, or risk an unchained run into like an unchained mix-up. That's kind of her, right? She struggles to stop people from fucking her up. I think super counter needs to get changed as well. Her super counter needs to be better, in my opinion. Um, yeah, I think she just needs better grounded buttons to fight against characters that have sick grounded buttons. But she's also a very hard one to balance, because if you make her grounded buttons too good, she already has a very good mix-up game up close. You don't want to make her too strong with pressing buttons. So you've got that. And then Omega Rugal just needs a faster heavy button. Like, this is what KF 15 is all about. It's about having those good, fast heavy buttons. Even if they're not cancelable, you want to have that out there as the wall. And then you push them forward with the wall into the corner where you actually get to play your game unabated. Yeah. They can't run anymore. They have to take massive risks to get out or to stop you. Right. Um, Rugal just needs that big button. They can either keep the buttons the same speed but make them cancelable, or just make it faster and not cancelable. It's up to them. But I think Rugal really, like, he does not contest that fast C area well, and that's where the problem is. He has to wait for you to make the mistake. And in a game like this, if you're playing against some of the best players in the world, or even the best players nationally, right? Very rarely are they going to make that mistake in a 2 hour free. So I think that's what Rugal needs as well. Everyone in B is fine. Everyone in B is absolutely fine. I mean, I've seen some videos where it's like, oh yeah, we need to make Geese's EX counter better because Rock EX counter is like the best one in the game. Like, how come Geese doesn't have it? It's just like, yeah, fair enough, but you're missing the important points here. What else? Um, I think Athena's kind of fine the way she is as well. Um, I think Orochi Shermie's fine the way she is. Orochi Shermie was like one of the characters who I was thinking of putting in C, but as of playing her very recently, I think her keep away and her buttons are good enough to put her in B, just because of how well she can contest the grounded game. If she didn't have those buttons though, she would be in dire straits. But but yeah, I mean that's basically it, really. I mean, like, everyone else in this game they're pretty well balanced. You can give them small things like, I think, for example, like Ralph Jones's Crouch C confirm into heavy Gatling is mega hard to do it, like in comparison to what Crouch C EX Palm from Gatto. You know, it's a massive jump in terms of difficulty to do. You have to be very sharp, right? Whereas with Gatto, you don't have to be sharp. So, you know, either keep it the same and nerf Gatto so that it's not, you don't have to, like make a cup of tea, then come back, then confirm it to confirm it, or just make Ralph's one better. But I think the former way, the making Gatto's one harder to confirm is the better way to, you know, balance it. That's all right, crazy. I'll probably have to go now anyway. I've already been here an extra half hour more than I should have, but it was good to like go through the tier list again with obviously Haydn missing, but sorry, not Haydn, with Maxima missing. But Maxima would be right in the middle of C. Not that it's like, you know, ordered properly, but you get the idea. But I'm looking forward to how Shamsho are going to be. I reckon Holmoru will definitely be in A at a bare minimum, but we'll find out next week. And I think Nakaru and Dali at minimum should be in B, but they could end up being higher, like in A as well. And I think that would be great for the game. But at what cost? We need this patch. We desperately, desperately need this patch. I think if we don't get this patch, a lot of people are going to drop off, and that is going to be a massive problem with the lifespan of this game. Because once people drop off, it's going to be very hard for them to come back. So yeah. Anyway, this is like a quick overview of the tier list as well. I'll probably upload this to YouTube as well and have it as a highlight, just for good, just for a quick walk down memory lane of my old tier list being an absolute mockery, and then this tier list, which I think is pretty much spot on. With the only character that you could really talk about being an S is Benny. But I think Benny is just missing those big, heavy, far-reaching buttons that are prevalent in the meta, and he just does not have a cooler crouch B. So, those are the two main concerns that he has. He has to rely on stand CD, and although that's not a bad way to play the game, I don't think it's enough to warrant an S position on the tier list. He has to take risks jumping forward and moving in and trying to close the gap with quarter circle back A and C, and zoning with Raijinken. And the first method can be punishable, and the second method is just not enough damage to really make it a viable option to do most of the time. Like, you work it into your strategies, right? That's what you do as a player, but it's not the game-winning strategy that you can just thoroughly rely on. Like, as a player, I can very much rely on Yashiro's far C and crouch C to do the job. Do you know what I mean? Like, that will put in the work for me. I don't have to think too much outside of that. It's more of like, right, how am I going to get the opponent to start blocking? That's where the thought process comes in. With Benny, it's like, right, how am I going to hit them? How am I going to get them blocking? How am I going to keep them blocking? Did you know what I mean? These are all things that you have to consider. And although Benny is close to meeting that standard, I think he just falls short. But I definitely think he's the best character in A, alongside Shermie and maybe Liz/Chris. But I think they just take too much bar as well.